All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and fishing accomplices, good morning and welcome back to Fishin'. So it's still early July, and this is my first trek down to the South Shore in at least a good 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been a while, but I'm happy to be back. Truth be told, I was hoping to get here a little sooner, but one thing led to another, and I just had to give the spot, or this area rather, a bit of a break. Got quite a few spots here. But here we are. It's not even 6 o'clock, and it is peak tide right now, just about to slack out. So we're gonna try and catch the last stages of incoming today, work some spots where I think there'll be a bit more tidal movement. And once that tide starts ripping out, we're gonna stage somewhere else and probably hold up there for most of the day, depending on how things go. But there should still be some good fluke around. I know the bass and blues, the majority of which that are in the area I'm in, have probably started to make their way out, but fluke is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with stacking up a few flatties. So it's always the chance we can get into something really big too. So that is why we are here, and I hope I made it clear, because we're about to get some fishing accomplished. Okay. We don't have a ton of tide right now. It's just about peaked. We might have a tiny bit of movement. I am gonna work probably the shallows, but before I do, there's at least 1 or 2 pieces of structure I wanna hit before I jump into that option. And I wanna try and fish right on top of it, just to see if anything's gravitating towards it. So we're gonna fish this 5-inch gulp paddle shad, just as a wide catch-all. But let's see what we can do. All right, let's give this a go. There's definitely some life on this piece. See how we hold with a 1/2 ounce, because we got no tide. If there was any tide, we'd have to upsize, but might be able to pull this off. Got him that time. Little. Let's see what's been. Yeah, it is a fluke. I'm surprised. Fluke do like to hang around structure. What this is. Ooh, yeah. That's got some weight. That's got some weight. That's a good fish. That's a very good fish. Very good fish. Just be a fluke. That's a good fluke. It's gonna put the net to the test. It's a big fish. Good fish. That is a big fluke. That is a big fluke. It's not a doormat, but it's a very nice shower mat. Just keep him down. It's as easy as that. Yes, sir. That is a good fish. It's at least, and he just spit it, at least 24. Game over. We are looking at just almost touching 24.
Yeah, so for whatever it's worth, I measured this fish again when I got home, when it was much easier, and it was actually a little over 24, about 24 and a half, and I even weighed it on the boga, and it went about 6 pounds and change, which sounds a little heavy to me, but I don't know. It was a thick fish.
Okay, that's a very nice start to the day. Probably a good and change fish right there. Very chunky, 24 inches. Got him on the paddle shad, just working the edge of some structure. Practically slack tide, but let's see what else we can find here. Once that tide starts moving, we're probably going to make a move, but in the meantime, let's see if we can find some other action. That's not very big. That might be a sea robin. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. That's a contender for my smallest fluke of the year.
So I stayed at the spot for probably another 30 to 45 minutes, right up until the tide started to switch to outgoing. And while I was catching a lot of small fluke and sea robins, I decided to make a move because I knew once that tide really got moving, I'd pretty much be stuck here and I'd have to work really hard with drift resets and such. So I decided to make a move to another spot where I was pretty sure I'd find some fish. And I made a few pauses along the way just to see if I can find some life.
Okay, that tide is gonna start raging pretty soon, so while it was fun to get on the smaller fish and that one nicer one, I just don't want to get sucked into the crazy tide. While fishable with heavy enough stuff, I'd prefer to fish lighter equipment and not have to work so hard for it. So we're making our way in a bit. Good spot. I have no doubt we'll be able to find fish, but we're gonna have to leave those guys behind for another day. So let's make a move and see if we can get on some more decent fish. All right, this isn't necessarily where I want to end up doing a lot of my fishing, but just take a little breather. We've been on the move for probably the last 20 minutes, and I figured this is a good place to rest and try and fish, as it's typically a spot that holds a fair amount of fish. Typically better during incoming. Right now we're fishing outgoing, but certainly could be some life here. Just did a drift with the standard issue shad. Didn't get too much attention, so we're gonna try this split tail smasher. I find that this kind of style and presentation tends to work fairly well during outgoing, so downsize the weight because you typically can get away with a bit less weight with this profile. See if we can get on some action. All right, nothing to worry about. Oh, that's better. Nah, it's not that big. That feels better. That's definitely a better fish. Should go at least 19. I just spit it. Easy, easy, easy. You're probably gonna go back. I'm guessing like 18 and change. Yeah, he's like 18 and 3/4. You don't want to be in there, buddy. You're gonna have to trust me on this one. Okay, just got a pretty nice short on the split tail smasher. I'd like to do one longer drift through here before I leave to the next spot. Again, assuming that I don't have a, lights out drift. So we're gonna throw this paddle shad on. These tend to be, I think, a little more effective for longer drifts as they retain their scent a bit more. Obviously, this is what we got that first keeper on. Let's not get that tangled in the trolling motor. This is left over from last year's. It looks like it's still got some good movement, so let's give this a go and see how we do. If nothing too special happens, we will pull up and go to the next spot. As we prepare to hit this drift one more time, I'm a little nervous about this one, folks. It's time for our not quite seltzer review of the day. And today, we're fishing, we're drinking Splash Fizz. Don't think this is really a seltzer, but it has 0 sugar, so no idea what we're about to get ourselves into. It's blood orange, by the way. Well, it's very sweet. This is kind of like that green drink I had a few sessions ago. I think the sweetener is probably, what do we got? We got some kind of sweetener in here that makes it a little too sweet. I think this is probably more marketed towards younger people. I don't particularly love this. I'd give this maybe a 7. It's palatable, but I would not recommend this. But that's me. Don't take my word for it. Hopefully I can recommend this video, assuming I get onto some more action. So let's hope that goes down in the next few drifts. Okay, let's see how the paddle shed does by comparison. This thing being embedded with scent, I think, does make it more advantageous for longer drifts, and that is exactly what we're going to do right now. This will be the longest drift we've done since the first spot, maybe even of the day. Not a crazy long drift, but we'll probably go, you know, quarter mile thereabouts. We're drifting at about a knot, so we'll cover some ground. I'm getting more bites, but a lot of smaller bites in the gulp. I don't know why that keeps happening. That's not bad. That's not a bad fish. Doesn't feel bad at all. It's a nice short. It's not quite big enough. That works. Sea robin. Getting sea robin vibes. You and me go way back. I can live without this. Oh, that's better. That's much better. Not a huge fish, but it's a nice fish. Maybe not, actually, I don't know. It's close. My guess is a 2023 keeper, but not necessarily a 2024. Yeah, not even. It's 18. Well, we just did a longer drift and got a fairly good mix of bites. I mean, it wasn't red hot, but I think it was good enough to warrant at least one more drift over. 3 of those fish were, you know, hovering around keeper size, not quite. So I think it's justifiable to do that one more time, but the next drift isn't much better than that. We're going to make a move. Okay, let's try this drift at least one more time. See if we can stick a legal fish. Yes! That could be okay. It's not a bad fish. Another, like, right on the cusp. I'm not gonna net them, but that one might actually make it. I don't know. Feels a little thicker than the last couple. Another 18, very thick 18. Dead weight. Not fighting at all. I don't think he's that big. Oh, here he goes. Now he's fighting. They're all really good shorts. It's not that big, so I don't really care how he comes up. 18. It's the magic number. Okay, my blue-ish paddle shad's getting a little beat up, so we're gonna switch to this white one and see how this does. That's a Fluke. Buried in the mud. Actually, that's just color. Alright, this puts me at about an hour in this spot, and it's been fairly productive, but if we don't get a decent bite or fish in this one, we are going to move. Because enough is enough. Certainly fish here, but let's go see if we can find something in a spot that I think could yield a bit more while we still have a little bit of tide left. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good fish. I don't think it's a huge fish, but I think it's a very nice fish. Definitely the best one since the first one. Might be fouled. Looks like he's circling a little bit. Nope, not fouled. Just a legal Fluke. Very nice. It's a nice fish. It's like a 22-incher probably. Alright, let's get him strung up before we get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, he's about 20, almost 20, 21 and a half. Very nice. Okay, keeper number 2 secured. Let's try 1 or 2 more drifts here. I've been saying that forever. I do want to check out this other spot, but it's the classic, you don't leave fish to find fish, I suppose. Like, tide is really the biggest obstacle or, you know, hindrance for today. Probably got about another hour-ish of moving tide, and then it's going to start to bottom out, and I would like to get out around that. I've got things I need to tend to later. There he is. Not much. He's pretty deep. I feel like we're on the last hurrah bite right now, as the tide's gonna get ready to slow down pretty soon. Never made it to that other spot, at least not yet, but I suppose didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Well, I could say this will be my last drift here if nothing good happens, but I've already said that like 10 times, so will we ever get to that spot? Who knows? But let's give this an honest effort. Ooh. Yeah, he got a lot lighter. Still nice though. Maybe, I think I'm wrong. It's a nice fish. Surprised, he's only 18 and a half, but he's very thick 18 and a half. Very lively too. It's fish like that one that are making it very difficult to leave this spot. If they're here, there's no reason to leave them. Oh man, another nice fish. geez, that's a good one. Now that one, it's clearly, maybe not, I don't know. Just threw up a whole squid. That one should make 19. But then again, I don't know. It's like 18 and change. Gotcha that time. Another nice fish. So many of these fish. It's like another 18. 17 and a half, 18 incher. It's incredible how many of these like good sized flukes there are around. Big sea robin. Big sea robin. That is a chunky boy right there. You've been feeding well. Go on and be free. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really nice fish. Yeah, maybe not so nice, but certainly not bad. Yeah, you're not that big. Really cool colors in this one. Another 18. All right, well, that detour ended up being probably the main event of this particular session, unless something really unexpected happens right now, but probably got about an hour-ish or so to fish, really. Could change depending on how this goes, but we're finally going to make our way to that spot I originally wanted to go to. Truth be told, it is the tail end of outgoing, so it might not fish as well as it could have or should have, but I do want to hit this up. It's kind of on the way out, so it's worth a go, but let's see what we can do to close out this session. All right, we're going to mix it up yet again. In this last spot, we were going to fish these gulp jerk shads to start things off. I find they do pretty well over here during outgoing tide. It's a 5-inch, I believe. Yeah, 5-inch. I don't typically use this color, but this is the closest thing to white they had. Though other colors work too, but this is what I figured would work well for me, so. Just gonna jig this thing around. I might cast it if we don't have a lot of tide. We will see when we get there, but let's see what we can do with this gulp jerk shad. Okay. Last series of spots. See what we can muster up like the next hour or so, give or take. It didn't take too long, and he's off. The Fluke. Rather lukewarm reception to the jerk shad so far, so I'm going to switch it up and go for the paddle shad, because that was doing a number on the fish where we just came from. Try working this ledge. That's pretty much it. If we can't make anything bite this trip, we're done. Ooh. That's better. That's much better. It's not that big. Oh, there goes my shad. do for today. I could probably stay in and keep catching fish, but it's only going to get tougher as this tide continues to drop, and it's getting pretty low. I want to get out before it's completely dead low, but overall, I think today was a day for long drifts. You know, sometimes you can hit the same stuff over and over again, really tight, but today I found the fish to be a little spread out, but in the same general areas. And for that reason, I think the gulp was more the way to go. When I can fish other stuff effectively, I will, but I feel like anything other than the gulp would have been kind of less than ideal. So overall, the results were pretty good. I mean, if this were 2023, it would have been like 3 or 4 limits. But obviously we have the 19-inch size limit now, and not that it matters. Either way, it's fun fish to catch, and I'd be throwing back 18.5 inches even if they were legal, but I'm happy with it. This will probably be my little break before I go into some freshwater fishing. Not for super long, but I'll be out of town for a couple days to try that. So this was a good way to go out, and this is definitely what I needed after really struggling fishing closer to home. So I'll take this any day of the week. But thanks for watching as always. Thanks for the support. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye from fishing.